Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Hey, Atlanta. Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
MisFitNation. MisFitNation.
Awesome.
Pour me another drink. 'Cause I don't wanna feel a thing no more, hell no. I just wanna sip it till the pain wears off. Pour me another round. Line 'em up and knock 'em down. 2 more, let's go. 'Cause I ain't never heard like this before. Don't wanna think about her or wear a ring without her. Don't wanna hit the karaoke bar, can't sing without her. So make them drinks strong, 'cause brother, she's gone. And if I'm ever gonna move on, I'ma need some whiskey glasses. 'Cause I don't wanna see the truth. She's probably making out on the couch right now with someone new. Yeah, I'ma need some whiskey glasses if I'm gonna make it through. If I'ma be single, I'ma need a double shot of that heartbreak proof and see the world through whiskey glasses. Sip around the truth. See the world through whiskey glasses. I need a better view, or I'm drinking you. Last call. I swear this'll be my last call. Now I ain't drunk, darling, no more at 3 a.m. Mr. Bartender hit me again. Don't wanna think about her or wear a ring without her. Don't wanna hit the karaoke bar, can't sing without her. So make them drinks strong, 'cause brother, she's gone. And if I'm ever gonna move on, I'ma need some whiskey glasses. 'Cause I don't wanna see the truth. She's probably making out on the couch right now with someone new. Yeah, I'ma need some whiskey glasses if I'm gonna make it through. If I'ma be single, I'ma need a double shot of that heartbreak proof and see the world through whiskey glasses. Oh, see the world through whiskey glasses. Yeah. Line 'em up, line 'em up, line 'em up, line 'em up. Knock 'em back, knock 'em back, knock 'em back, knock 'em back. Fill 'em up, fill 'em up, fill 'em up, fill 'em up. 'Cause if she ain't ever coming back, line 'em up, line 'em up, line 'em up, line 'em up. Knock 'em back, knock 'em back, knock 'em back, knock 'em back. Fill 'em up, fill 'em up, fill 'em up, fill 'em up. 'Cause if she ain't ever coming back, I'ma need some whiskey glasses. 'Cause I don't wanna see the truth. She's probably making out on the couch right now with someone new. Yeah, I'ma need some whiskey glasses if I'm gonna make it through. If I'ma be single, I'ma need a double shot of that heartbreak proof and see the world through whiskey glasses. Yingling.
All right. Welcome back.
MisFitNation.
If you're a veteran and you're struggling or feel like you are heading towards that path to the darkness, stop and think about those who are around you. Think about how they truly value you, how they will miss you. You are not alone. You need to talk to someone. Someone will listen to you. If you feel like you'll be a burden to someone or feel embarrassed to tell your friends or inner circle, call the hotline at 988 and take option 1. Do not make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you're a new listener, thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast apps. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at _MisFitNation. That's _MisFitNation. Subscribe and click the bell. This will keep you up to date with our latest shows, episodes, and of course, stories of our guests. Speaking of which, our next guest, after 24 years as a U.S. Army paratrooper, as well as 4 combat tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan, Colonel David Fivecoat retired. He founded the Fivecoat Consulting Group. He now blogs, speaks, coaches great leaders, and helps develop great organizations. He's a native Ohioan, and he resides in Columbus, Georgia. So without further ado, let's welcome David Fivecoat to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, David. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great, too. Our pre-show, we probably could just went on with that banter for a whole 30 minutes, too, especially since we were both on different sides of a post where, people kind of have a good rivalry with each other here at Fort Campbell, and now you're outside of Fort Benning now. But you'll always have that Tory in your mind and in the back of your head. So thank you for your service, and thank you for agreeing to come on the show and chat with us about your story.
Yeah, and thank you for your service too. I know you and I were chewing different parts of Afghanistan at the same time.
Definitely chewed some of the same awesome dirt there, and met a lot of great people there, and led them to victory. So good on you, and thankfully we both made it back whole.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, David, tell us a little bit more about your story that I didn't mention in the intro there, as far back as you want to go to how we got to where we are now.
Yeah. So I attended West Point and graduated from there, and had some really great mentors. 2 guys in particular, Dave Lamb and Guy LaFaro, who had both been in the 82nd Airborne Division, had been to Ranger School, and they told great stories about being in the Army and in the All-Americans as well. And so that was my whole goal as a cadet, was to go be a lieutenant in the 82nd Airborne Division. I managed to fulfill that goal and made it to 2nd Battalion 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment, where I was a brand new lieutenant in a also much younger Stan McChrystal's battalion.
Nice.
And we spent my first summer on active duty, actually preparing to go invade Haiti. And for a lot of your listeners, they won't remember that, but the 82nd got to the point where we uploaded live ammunition, rigged parachutes, got on planes, and I was taking my platoon to jump into Port-au-Prince International Airport. And then we were going to eventually walk down to the Presidential Palace and be the battalion's reserve. We actually turned around at about the tip of Florida. So we flew almost all the way down there. So we thought afterwards, my guys joked that we should have called it Operation Just About, because we just about got to combat. But that was my formative time in the Army. And then sort of after that, I said, hey, I'm going to stay in the Army till it stops being fun. And it kept being fun and a challenge, and getting to work with interesting people and go different places. And so I went to Korea after my platoon leader time, and then 9/11 happened. Went to Kosovo, Bosnia, and then 9/11 happened, and then did the 3 trips to Iraq, including the invasion with 101st, and then to Afghanistan with 3rd of the 187. I finished up my Army career down here at Fort Benning, Georgia. I ran the Army's Airborne School and Ranger School. For some of your older veterans that are listening to the show, in 2013, the Army combined Airborne School and the Ranger Training Brigade all into one battalion. So it's now, or one brigade. So it's now known as the Airborne Ranger Training Brigade. And so I did that from 14 to 16, and then decided in 2017 that it was time to retire and try other things. Since then, founded my own company, doing a lot of executive coaching with leaders in the oil and gas industry and some of the folks in a West Coast startup. And then also I do leadership talks. I published a book and did a couple other things.
That's outstanding. That's a journey right there. And the 94, 95 time period for Haiti. I was in 24th Infantry Division at Fort Stewart, just down the street from down the road there in I-95 from Fort Bragg, and we were loading boats to go. And because, we had all the light, heavy equipment there, and we got everything on the boat, and we're all ready to go, and having all these speeches, the hoorah speeches, and then pack it up, unpack, and drive it back up to Fort Stewart. So I understood the pain there just because there. So it was a fun time. So that's another cross pattern there. You flew over us probably as we were on the boat, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And of course, I was in Korea probably around the same times as well. So, but I was probably in a better place when you were probably with the Manchus up there, and I was down in Kunsan Air Base. So.
I got shanghaied onto division staff. So I was on Camp Red Cloud right north of Seoul, and working in the underground bunker that making PowerPoint slides about 12 hours a day and 6 days a week. So it was not I went kicking and screaming to Korea, but it was one of my better experiences in the Army. I learned a lot. I got to live in a foreign country for a year. I tried to experience as much of Korea as possible. I don't know about you, but every day I was big into running at that point in time. And every day I'd go out running, and I'd be like the only white guy on the trails up in the mountains in the state parks up around Uijeonbu, which is the little town where Red Cloud is. So it was, to me, that was a great experience, and I really learned a lot, and really enjoyed my time there in Korea.
Yeah, it's my third tour in Korea, 2008 to 10. I was on Camp Stanley right there in Uijeonbu, and that's when I did most of my tour guide stuff. And because my wife and daughter came with me, so I seen every part of Korea when they were with me. The other two times I was kind of that geo bachelor and did what geo bachelors do in Korea for a year, either drink or work out. And so I did both those tours. And the third tour, though, I seen everything, and then also went to China and Thailand as part of our jump off trip. So it was a great country, and like running, we ran the Han all the time those 2 years. Yeah, and that's beautiful country.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Went to China, went to Shanghai, Beijing, and Hong Kong, and went to Thailand on a long weekend. So you and I use the same travel agents.
Little Apple tours. Yeah, I mean it's a great jump. It's a hidden secret. A lot of people, like you said, go there kicking and screaming, and then if you open your eyes, it's a great big world out there. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you got out. I mean, you were at Ranger Regiment when integration started too, weren't you? So you were kind of in the tip of the spear when that happened.
Yeah. So at the Ranger Training Brigade was selected to run the pilot program in 2015 for the first women to attend Ranger School. Ranger School has been in existence since 1952, but at that point in time, there were about 80,000 male grads, and no women had graduated Ranger School. So the Army said, hey, for our test case to decide where we're going to go with the gender integration of the Army, let's run this pilot program. So we were sort of the focus for the Army. It went on for about 6 months. We had reporters from the New York Times and Washington Post and Defense One and NBC following along the whole time. And so definitely was sort of in the center of attention. But the Ranger instructors did a phenomenal job. Our whole goal was to run a course that maintained the course standards and held everybody to what we called the one Ranger standard. So it didn't matter, as you know, PT tests in the Army are gender and age normed. But one of the things that we fought really hard for all the way up to the Secretary of the Army, because we had to get some exceptions to policy, was to make sure that the standard was exactly the same. So everybody carried the same stuff, did the same 12-mile road march that was 6 miles out, 6 miles back in under 3 hours, did the same push-ups, 49 push-ups, 59 sit-ups, a 5-mile run in 40 minutes, and 6 chin-ups. And so there was no difference between any candidate that was trying to earn the Ranger tab.
And that's a thing that, those who were not at the school at the time were getting the rumor mill, or the scuttlebutt was getting put out there, or they're changing the standards so they can push them through so they can have numbers. But talking to you, and I've talked to an instructor that was there, and he said there was no change in anything. Everything was still the same, and there was just a lot more people watching.
Right. It was probably the time that the Ranger School had the most eyes on it in its entire existence. The pass rate was actually lower than it had ever been. The typical pass rate for Ranger School was around 50% for most of the 90s and 2000s. And the pass rate of the classes around where the women were down in the 30, 35, 36%. So the argument that the standard was somehow easier, the facts and the data don't support that. Those three women earned the Ranger tab. The first three that graduated, that's Shay Haver, Kristen Grice, and Lisa Jaster. They earned the Ranger tab. And since then, there's been another 100 women that have come along behind them and graduated and earned the Ranger tab as well. So it's doable, and it's possible to maintain standards and keep things up to par. And the Ranger instructors did a phenomenal job of doing that. As a result, General Milley, who was then Chief of Staff of the Army, came down to the Ranger School graduation. And right after the graduation, he and my Sergeant Major, Kurt Arnold, and I had a discussion, and he asked us our opinion. And based on that conversation, he made the decision that all jobs and all units would be open to women after that. So that was the Army's position in 2016 when they had to go in front of Congress and tell them what they were going to do.
And it's good that you were there to be at the forefront of that and show that, yes, it can be done without deviating from any of the history of the Ranger schools. So that's an outstanding thing for you and your entire team at that point.
Yeah. And frankly, we knew about a year out that we were headed into Rangers, into doing this pilot program. And, every command team comes into Ranger School, or any command, and, they want to put their personal stamp on it. Kurt Arnold, my Sergeant Major, and I both made the decision that unless there was some sort of overwhelming reason to change something, we were not going to change anything that we had inherited, because we knew half the world would complain that we were making it harder for women to graduate, and the other half would complain that we were making it easier for women to graduate. And so we said, hey, look, nothing's changing. We're not going to implement anything. This is a big enough change on its own. We don't need to add our own stamp to Ranger School, and we'll ride this one out.
Definitely. I think you guys did a great job. In my intro of you, I talked about how you coach gritty leaders and gritty organizations. How did you get into the grit, I guess, finding grit as a way to combine leaders?
Yeah. So as I'm sure a lot of your veteran listeners can relate to, my path post-Army has been sort of interesting. I was, once I founded my company, I started doing some business consulting. I was talking to one of the clients, and she was like, hey, we're about ready to hire this guy to try to teach our company how to be gritty. You're kind of gritty. Why don't you look at his book and tell me what you think? And so I looked at his book, and I had read Angela Duckworth's book, Grit. She's sort of the godfather of grit. Yes. And I thought both her book and his book, they did a great job describing grit and describing who has it, telling you how you can test for it. But I don't think either one laid out a very good process for how somebody develops grit. So I went back and talked to the client and said, hey, I think there's missing something here. And she said, well, you should write a book. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And so I started writing a book. I did sort of double dip. I do a blog. I was blogging twice a week. I now blog once a week. But I test drove chapters in the blog because I'd read, I don't know if, do you know Andy Weir, the guy that wrote The Martian, the movie that, so he rolled that book out by chapter in his blog. and had all these scientists following it and would take their feedback and go like, oh no, you got to cut the potatoes up more, or, it won't possibly be enough or whatever. So I decided to do the same thing, test drove it in the blog. The chapters changed based on the feedback from the readers, and eventually published a book last July called Grow Your Grit. And I help people with a process, especially if there isn't a roadmap for something. Like if you're starting a company and you can definitely, find different ideas on it, but there's probably only one way that's going to work for you. And how do you figure out that framework that makes you gritty and continues to persevere despite setbacks?
I mean, Angela Duckworth, my first job out of the Army, worked for the Mission Continues, a veteran nonprofit.
Oh yeah.
And as part of our professional development, we had her book, and we did like a book club thing. So each week we'd do a whole chapter and do it. So that's how I was introduced to hers. And I thought the same thing. It didn't teach you the process. It usually shows you what it was and defined it, but not how to be it. And I thought it was a great book. And I like how you took that as basically the basis and made yours better. Or made it to what yours is now. Yeah.
And so sorry, there's the book. Sorry, I can't get the camera right there. There's the book, Grow Your Grit. It's out on Amazon. It's also on Target.com, for whatever reason, has picked it up. And so it's on Target.com. Target or Amazon, you can get it that way. It's not in any bookstores. It was self-published, so it's kind of small, but I enjoyed it, and I think it's been able to help thousands of people out there that have read it.
I mean, that's awesome. That's when I wrote my book last year, I told people if one person reads and gets something out of it, it's a win.
Right.
Reach one, teach one, and that person teaches. So the fact that you're on Target.com, you just got all the women that shop at Target every week. They'll see your book every day when they go on Target.com. So that's good.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I read somewhere that the average book sells 400 copies. And so I figured if I could sell 401 copies, I would be above average. So, I hope your book has sold 401 copies too.
We're not there yet, but it's coming.
All right.
Hopefully, I haven't got Target.com though. I got to find out how that happens. Hopefully, I can get there, and I'll be with you as we go on that glide path.
All right.
So, what was your grittiest experience while serving in the Army? I'm sure you had some really good stories, either from the battlefields in Kandahar, Iraq, or even just training right there at Benning. I'm sure you had some great stories.
I'll divide it up a couple of ways. Of course, battalion command in Afghanistan, for a full year was an incredibly gritty time. You're fighting against a thinking enemy that you don't know what they're going to do. We were in Paktika, the western half of Paktika province, for the first 6 months, and then we picked up and we moved over to Ghazni for the second 6 months. The first 6 months I was working for my brigade headquarters. Second 6 months we were working for the Polish brigade. Wow. And so and the Poles were great. They bent over backwards to try to help us. However, there were some things that sort of fell through the cracks. Like, for instance, they had Mi-24 helicopters, and trying to get an Mi-24 is a area weapon, and trying to get Polish pilots to do a gun run while they're traveling at 150 miles an hour, and you're trying to talk in English and then get somebody to translate it into Polish and then to the pilot, with a system that is not nearly as precise as the Apache. We quickly figured out that we needed to keep really good distance if we were ever going to bring in the Mi-24s on a gun run. And so that was one of the things I wish we had more American helicopter support. We could manage to get helicopters about once every 2 weeks, and a couple of friends kind of did some things that they weren't supposed to, but we weren't supposed to have dedicated helicopter support because the Poles had the helicopter support. So, but that's the fun of coalition warfare, right?
You got to dig deep in situations like that too. I can imagine calling that in and having to duck and hope that he's hitting the right thing and not hitting you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a pretty good story right there. And that, at the same time we were in the South. I think we had all the air support in the South there in Kandahar at that same time. So we had all the American power. You had the coalition.
Right. The second most challenging was leading Ranger School, which required all my grit and perseverance. There were all kinds of naysayers out there and critics. No one was really satisfied by it, but we tried to do the best job possible. One of our goals, in addition to the one Ranger standard, was to be as transparent as possible, because we felt like we didn't want it to go into a black box and then sort of come out the other side and people wonder what really happened or didn't happen. And so we tried to be as transparent as possible. That may have added to the more rumors and innuendos. My favorite rumor out of the whole Ranger School story is some guy criticized this on Facebook, and he's like, "Oh, the women don't look skinny enough down in Florida, so you guys must not have put the women through Ranger School. This whole thing is being done in a warehouse in front of a green screen, just like the moon landings."
Oh my gosh!
And we were like, I'm not sure how we respond to that one, but that was sort of the rumors and innuendos that we were dealing with. And so we tried to inject facts into those discussions and had a great sergeant major that liked to get on Facebook and put out some of the facts behind what was going on. One other funny story. So you're familiar with the Duffel blog, right?
Yes.
So I did get parodied in the Duffel blog twice.
Oh, wow.
The first one was that the Duffel blog said that I was going to add the pickle jar opening test to be a graduation requirement from Ranger School, which I thought I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty funny. If you can't laugh at yourself, you need to have a little bit of humor. And then the second one was we had a lightning strike on 40 students down in Florida, including one Ranger who eventually goes on to graduate, but he actually flatlined. And luckily we had a real 75th Ranger Regiment medic as one of the students that also got hit by lightning. Oh, wow. But he recovered faster than the Ranger instructors. And he actually did CPR on the Ranger student and brought him back. And they all ended up graduating. A couple of them had to go spend 24 hours in the hospital. But it was the Duffel blog just said that God was trying to say that women shouldn't graduate Ranger School.
Oh, wow. And some of those writers at the Duffel blog were actually former lieutenants that when they got out, that's where they started writing.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. That makes some sense with their cynicism and their sarcasm on there. So it's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
So that adds to the humor too. So there's probably guys that probably failed Ranger School that wrote it.
Yeah.
So you do executive coaching basically, and
yeah.
How when you go into an executive situation, do you use your military background or all your schooling, or you just go in there and like a soldier, like when you were in combat, you assess the situation, then adjust as you go?
Yeah, so I like to sign up executives to do 6 months of coaching with me. And the first thing that I always start them out with is a thing called the Hogan Instrument, which is very similar to Myers-Briggs, but it's designed for business. And they take that. It's a 200-question test. And it gives a pretty good assessment of what their strengths are, what their gaps are, whether they're introverted, extroverted, what their goals and motivations are. And we use that as a basis for the ground level assessment. The second session typically is a 360. And so we use a 360 tool to get feedback from their peers, their direct reports, and their managers. And we use that as a second sort of conversation starter to figure out more about them and who they are. We go from there, and one of the big things which is in my grip book, is personal purpose. And you have to whether you're an executive, a soldier, or a veteran, you've got to understand what your personal purpose is or what your why is. And I take the executives through that process, and they figure out what their most important values are, and then try to figure out a personal purpose statement that they can live with. It is kind of funny. I have them test drive it with their spouses. Sometimes their spouse gives them a little bit of feedback that makes it a little bit better. But that's sort of where we start off on. And then one of the things that I do that's different than a lot of executive coaches, I call it take your executive coach to work day. And I fly to wherever they are and spend a day with them in the office, or if they are out running, supervising stuff, I tag along with them for a day. And so tomorrow morning I get up at 6 a.m. and fly out to Salt Lake City and meet an executive, and we're driving around to some of his direct reports and seeing him in action for tomorrow and Wednesday. So that to me gives me a pretty good assessment. And then I ask them to set goals, one personal and one professional, and we try to spend the rest of the time together working on moving the needle for them and changing whatever it is, whether it's, hey, I need to be a better listener, or I need to be a better communicator, or I need to do a better job of developing my team. We spend some time trying to help them get better at that, and hopefully it rubs off for them long term.
I'm sure it does, and getting to go to Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City is a beautiful area. Yeah. Hopefully you get to see some of the sites while you're driving around to see his direct reports. Did some work out there with the Army as well at Tooele, not just to the west of Salt Lake City. So it's a beautiful area. I'm sure you'll enjoy it up there. Yeah,
I get to go into Wyoming too. He's got territory in Wyoming, so it's the See the American West tour.
And see some beautiful country up there. So it's a lot different from where both of us are right now.
Yeah.
So, David, you've shared a lot of insight, and your journey can lay groundwork for others to be successful. If you had to talk to a young, probably a high school guy or gal who wants to go to West Point and try to follow your steps, what advice would you give them at that point? And then what advice would you give them midway through their career?
That's kind of challenging. So one of the biggest pieces of advice, and this is coming from mentoring a couple people, like I've been mentoring. He's now actually a sergeant who ended up enlisting in the Army, ended up at 3rd Battalion 187, of course, the best battalion at Fort Campbell, and it made it through Ranger School, and then just got selected, made it through the SFAS, and is headed off to the Q course. The biggest thing that I'm 50 now, that's a 30-year age gap. But the biggest thing is to try to take one thing at a time. And, you get these very eager people that want to achieve, and they're ready to do everything right now. And the best piece of advice that I've had with mentoring folks of that age and wanting to start things off is, hey, slow down, figure out what the first step is, and then be all in on that first step, whatever it is. And in his case, first he needed to get through basic training, then he needed to go to Ranger School, and then he eventually decided on his own to go to SFAS, but because he wanted that challenge. And so slow the pace, not slow the pace down. Don't be any less aggressive or desiring to achieve something, but lay out your first step, be all in, and be successful at that. And don't be afraid to fail too, because not everybody passes basic training. Not everybody passes Ranger School. And so if you really want something, there's got to be some risk in that. And that's part of the gritty sort of mantra. It's not really a gritty goal if you're not going to fail at it. If there's not a chance of you failing at it, it's probably not gritty enough. So maybe you need to raise the bar a little bit. But for that sort of age group, start off and figure out what the first thing is, and knock that target down. Then go on to the next one.
Definitely. And I think at that age, a lot of them want that, especially the generation coming up now, they want that instant gratification. So you have to really slow it down a little bit in order to go faster. So slow is fast, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And you go through that, and they'll understand that as they get further through, especially going through West Point. When I would get lieutenants that came from West Point, I'd always ask, did you go to college or did you go to West Point? Because if they went to college, they partied the whole time. West Point, they kind of had a strict kind of guideline, except those days when they were actually able to do stuff, and they weren't doing frat boy things like the guys at the college. So you got a different product from the ROTC than you did from the West Pointers.
Yeah. They're a little bit socially stunted, and I'm a grad. I agree. You know, we spent every weekend that we could get away from West Point trying to go to, as we call them, real colleges and try to get the real college experience.
See the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I was gonna say, how about the mid-career guy or gal?
So is the mid-career person in the Army, or have they transitioned into corporate world?
I say transition into corporate world.
Okay. So a couple things that are fresh, because, you know, I've been out 5 years now. The first thing is, I probably couldn't have become an entrepreneur when I first left the Army. And I landed at another company, worked for them for a couple of years, saw some things, and it was a great sort of transition. I encourage folks, first off, I encourage all veterans, especially if you have the retirement and you have the health care, take the risk and become your own boss and be an entrepreneur. But maybe figure out a job to land in for your first job out of the Army that is close to what you actually think you want to start your own company in, and do that first, because there's just some things of the corporate mindset. Like now as a solo entrepreneur, you know, I have to do the billing. I have to chase. If somebody doesn't pay, I have to, you know, go after them and be the accounting department. You know, I'm doing my own marketing. I'm going on podcasts to talk about the company and what I do, and all those things. And so it helps to have at least a frame of reference in another company that's maybe been started for a little while before you get into it on your own. But I encourage the vets, especially if you've got health, you know, if you've got the TRICARE and you've got the pension. Take the risk and go be an entrepreneur and see if you can create your own company and create your own thing.
Awesome. That's great advice. And David, how does someone get in contact with you to either hire you as a consultant or just chat with you like I am now?
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. Hit me up on LinkedIn. That's or hit me up on my website, the FivecoatConsultingGroup.com. There's a couple of things where you can contact me off that. Love to hear from anybody out there. Talk to them about standing up their own company. I've mentored some other folks that are on the entrepreneurial journey as well, and making that transition, and hopefully can help them too.
Awesome. Thank you. And the website is going across the bottom of the screen right now. So if you see that, you can write it down or screenshot it. It'll also be in the show notes. So you can click on it and find David, find him on LinkedIn, and grow your network and help him help you. So David, thank you for taking some of your time out of your busy day down there outside of Fort Benning, Georgia, and to share your story with us here on the Misfit Nation.
All right. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. So thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation tonight. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com to catch up on all our episodes and also to get some Misfit Nation gear. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation.
You know how we do this. Thanks for taking some of your time to spend with us on
Misfit Nation.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button and share the link as much as possible. If you want to, please become a supporter to help us carry this thing on. We appreciate you. If you know someone that brings that energy, has a great story, is an up-and-comer in the industry of music, in the arts, have them reach out to us on themisfitnation.com. We will get back to them within one day and get them on here so they can share their story with the world. As always, till next time, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are Fit Nation.